As you're well aware, we're living in unprecedented times. Join us now for today's special program.
I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life removing pain. Lord, let my words heal a heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life mending broken people.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Thursday night here at 3ABN. Tonight is the live night, and it's all the way live, and we're glad that you're here with us. And I have my co-pilot right next to me, my wife, Angela. Good to have you here, honey.
Always happy to be here. We are so blessed to be alive in these last days.
That's right.
And excited about this program today.
Whenever our guests, which we'll introduce you in just a moment, whenever they come here, we know that it's going to be a moving, informative, exciting, health-filled program. And tonight may be one of the only times that you get health advice without having to pay for it. And so we suggest that you hit that record button. It's going to be an exciting program about some things that we need to know about.
Absolutely. Also, if you have questions, what can they do about questions? Or is there an email? Or how could they send in their questions?
Now, we're going to be taking questions in the second hour. And if you want to do that, you can text those into 618-228-3975. That's 618-228-3975. Or if you prefer emailing, that is live at 3abn.tv. Live at 3abn.tv.
So send your questions in.
Send your questions in because, you know, whatever you... Now, I can't tell them what to ask, but just send them in. I'm going to enjoy answering those questions. Medical questions, exactly. And we're not going to give advice about vaccines and all that. That's not what we're going to touch on this program. But something more vital and more empowering. Why don't we introduce our guests before we go to music tonight?
Yes, Dr. David and Sonja DeRose, both doctors. Welcome.
Right.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you. Great.
Good to have you back, Pastor.
It is
Pastor
good to be
Doctor.
back.
That's right.
Doctor.
Yes, well, first tell us where you're from and what you do. I kind of alluded to that, but you'll expand on that.
Sure. So right now, Sonja and I have been pastoring in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So we look at that as a team ministry, even though sometimes it seems like we're running in a lot of directions. When I took the position, talked both with the conference and the local church that I'll still be doing some health ministry work. So about 1 day a week I spend doing telemedicine, actually still working with a practice that I worked with for many years in Northern California. So kind of between both parts of the country there, ministering medically as well as in pastoral lines.
What is telepracticing for those that are...
Telemedicine is basically doing things remotely. So whether it's over a phone connection, whether it's a video connection, a lot of folks with the advent of COVID-19 have been afraid to walk into medical offices. I know some people think that sounds strange, but both Sonja and I are dealing in the realm of telemedicine, and there's a lot of folks who are really still afraid to walk outside their door. Other people, we work with indigent populations in many cases. Some of them don't have transportation. So telemedicine has opened up a lot of opportunities for care to people who didn't have access to it in the past.
Okay.
Now, Sonja, Dr. Sonja, tell us about yourself.
Yes, so of course I live in Fort Wayne with my husband, but I do still practice part-time in California, where I was working before we moved to Indiana, in a rural health clinic called Stellant Health. It's based on the Weimar campus. So I fly out there 1 week a month on average.
1 week?
And then I do telehealth a day, a week or so in between.
Wow.
So.
And you've also seen the impact of this environment on health issues?
Oh, definitely. A lot of people don't go to get regular health care that they need because they're afraid to come to the office to get, or the clinic to do what needs to be done just because they're afraid of getting COVID. So we see a lot of things, problems because of that as well.
Now, do you have children?
We do. We have 3 children, Angela, Victor, and Michael. And Angela is married to a pastor in southern Indiana. I mean, yeah, about 3 hours from us, and they work there, and she's a school teacher. They just started a church school this year, so they are very busy with 3 churches, a church plant, and a church school.
Wow.
Nice. Any children?
And then, no, not yet,
Okay.
other than their church school children.
Hey, that's right.
That's right.
And then Victor and his wife Naomi live in the Collegedale area. They both live and work there.
Tennessee.
And our youngest, Michael, just graduated from Southern Adventist University there this December, and he lives in the Collegedale area as well.
Wow.
Oh.
Well, like I said, we're glad to have you here. We're going to have a good program. You always come up with stuff that, just when I think I've learned a lot, you come up with something that I've never heard before. So I'm priming the listening and viewing audience because we have television and
radio.
That's right. And we want you to just turn that volume up, or if you're at home, invite your family to get together, because the information I know is always vital, informative, and it'll encourage you to seek a healthier life. And there are 2 books we're going to talk about in just a moment. But honey, what do we have for music tonight?
Oh, I'm so excited. Celestine and Farrah. Celestine Dickens and Farrah Barry are going to, mother and daughter, our very own, are going to share a song called The Savior is Waiting.
The Savior is waiting to enter your heart. Why don't you let him come in? There's nothing in this world to keep you apart. What is your answer to him? Time after time he has waited before, and now he is waiting again to see if you're willing to open the door. Oh, how he wants to come in. If you'll take one step toward the Savior, my friend, you'll find his arms open wide. Receive him, and all of your darkness will end. Within your heart he'll abide. Time after time he has waited before, and now he is waiting again to see if you're willing to open that door. Oh, how he wants to come in. to see if you're willing to open the door. Oh, how he wants to come in.
Thank you for that song, The Savior is Waiting. And that is a good segue because the Savior is waiting to offer us something that we have not experienced yet. The Bible says he's come that we might have life and have it more abundantly.
Amen.
And if we know anything about this present world, people are not really having life as abundant as they can. In spite of COVID, you can still experience abundant life.
I love it. You
That's
sure
right.
can.
Doctor and both Doctors DeRose, but Pastor David and Sonja, good to have you here. There are two books. I want to hold mine up here, and maybe we have a graphic for them. But these two books, one, The Methuselah Factor, and 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. Tell us how these books came about.
Yeah.
I know you're an author, John, so you know it's people just say all you got to do is sit down and write a book, but it's always a testimony to the Lord's blessing. So the first of these two books that we came out was the 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control, and I had the privilege of writing that with doctors Greg Steinke and nurse practitioner Trudy Lee. And when we were putting this book together, we said, the Seventh-day Adventist health message, God's health message, is powerful when it comes to this leading cause of death. By the way, the World Health Organization has pinpointed high blood pressure as being the single most significant, impactful risk factor when it comes to, chronic disease and death and disability. So it's just a huge factor. We're not talking about lifestyle factors like smoking or diet. We're talking about, measurable conditions, high blood pressure, right at the top of the list.
Wow.
And we really have a lifestyle that God's given us that actually helps to lower blood pressure naturally. That's right. But we wanted the whole picture. We wanted the spiritual component as well.
Okay.
And as we talked with people outside of the Adventist church, they say, hey, a health book, you don't want to put anything spiritual in it. The last chapter of this book really covers things like sin, salvation, the state of the dead, the Sabbath. This should be sounding familiar to you, right?
Okay. Yes.
We show how all of these Bible doctrines have a role when it comes to physical health. And we were actually one of the most prestigious groups that reviews books. They gave us a recommendation. They didn't give us their highest tier of recommendation, and they put a line in that went like this: the authors made one small misstep, and then they referred to us putting this chapter in on spirituality and health. But the interesting thing about that chapter is we've had some of the most glowing reports, including from leading authorities, talking about how powerful that chapter is. This book, even though it's been out for like 5 years, consistently in the top 10 best-selling books on Amazon on blood pressure. So the Lord has just blessed this, and thousands of people have really gotten a Bible study on these spiritual principles as well as the lifestyle principles. So it's still a great sharing resource. And that is really part of the background of what we're sharing tonight, because we've taken this book and we've put it and another book, the Methuselah Factor, into a free online program that any of your viewers, any of your listeners can take advantage of.
I love it. Free, you said?
It's free.
I signed up.
You did. I know you did already. I was glad to see you get your smart pad
Tell us
out.
about that.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about Methuselah Factor. The last time we were on, we talked about this book.
Yeah.
And many folks know that we have prophetic insight into an optimal lifestyle.
Yes, we do.
And beautiful statement, perfect health depends on perfect circulation. That's what this book is all about. That's cutting-edge medical science.
That's right.
And so we go in this book, we actually map out a 30-day program. So the last 30 chapters of this book are a day-by-day program, how you can improve your blood fluidity. The first 12 chapters go through all the things that blood fluidity is linked to. So if you just open the index, you'll see if you improve your blood fluidity, you lower your risk of a heart attack, you lower your risk of a stroke, you improve your likelihood of having good vision throughout your lifespan, you improve your mental performance, your physical performance. So we go through all that in the first part of the book, then it's a 30-day program. We took those same 30 daily challenges, we put them into 6-minute videos. So when you signed up,
Yes.
Angie, for that program,
Yes.
okay, tomorrow you'll get an email. And you'll have a 6-minute video to watch, and I will challenge you to something specific you can do to improve your health.
Really?
It's especially focused on high blood pressure and diabetes. That's the angle we took after having written the book on high blood pressure.
Wow, wow.
I love it. I'm getting my sisters signed up on this because they have high blood pressure.
And I know those listening might be saying, okay, sign up on what? The website is timelesshealinginsights.org. There it is on the bottom of the screen. If you're driving or listening, Timeless Healing Insights. Don't forget www.Timeless Healing Insights. I left the www and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's a new, so we're working with a great team of Adventist IT professionals. We've just built this website in the last couple weeks, and for some reason, I don't know how all the vagaries of the internet work, but for some browsers, you've got to put that www .in to get it to work.
That means World Wide Web.
You got it.
So,
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Sonja.
The other thing I like about that program, it doesn't just have the 30-day daily videos,
Yes.
but it also has 4 weekly videos once a week, about an hour long, that was actually taped from a program we did in our church with this, and it gives extra information. There's a couple of testimonies in there of people that went through the program unbeknownst to us until a few days before we did that program. And we said, we have to interview these people because it was just so inspiring. And there's some, also on there, there's some recipes and other resources, a few recipes and other resources and things too. So we'd encourage you to actually watch that 1-hour video at the beginning and then do the daily videos, and then every week there'll be a 1-hour video as well, continuing on with that.
Wow.
Okay, I have a question. Can natural remedies make a difference when it comes to high blood pressure and diabetes?
Absolutely.
Wow, really?
Oh yes, there are so many things that are important, and natural remedies is a large topic.
It is.
But there's New Start. I mean, you're familiar with that phrase, I'm sure, but those are all really actually important in lowering blood pressure. Proper diet, what we eat and what we don't eat makes a huge difference in our blood pressure. A whole food, plant-based diet is ideal. The omega-3 fatty acids, which are found in things like walnuts, flaxseed, chia seed, even oil of evening primrose, could be used as a supplement as well. Drinking water, daily exercise. I mean, there's just so many things that make a huge difference with blood pressure.
Yeah. Dr. David mentioned blood fluidity. Blood fluidity, is that the word? Okay.
Yeah.
Or the phrase. Explain that, because somebody might say, blood fluidity. Okay, does blood have fluid in it?
No, it's a great question. And in fact, the technical term for it is hemorrheology.
Okay, I like
Okay?
fluidity.
Yeah, blood fluidity is an easier one to remember. But there's the whole scientific discipline, and there's medical societies that are devoted to hemorrheology. So it's this science of blood fluidity. And why it's so important is really, if you think about it, how do you get oxygen to your tissues? How do you get nutrition to your cells? How do you get, it all really boils down to the tiniest blood vessels, the capillaries. That's where the interchange takes place. That's where you interface between the blood and your cells. And the more smooth that blood flow is, the better you can nourish those cells, the better you can remove wastes. And so whether it's diabetic complications, whether it's mental performance, whether it's physical performance, it's amazing. In the book, The Methuselah Factor, we go through data on athletes. And if athletes improve their blood fluidity, they perform better. Better muscle strength, it's just amazing.
That just makes sense. If you think about anything, we call, or let's just use a term that I think we could picture, a traffic jam.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, let's get blood vessel jam.
You got it.
Okay, it's not going anywhere. And those blood vessels are, and the capillaries are carrying the oxygen. If there's a jam somewhere, like sludge in your blood, too many sweets, too many fatty foods, it starts slowing them down.
That is so true. In fact, they've actually demonstrated that with electron scanning microscopes.
Oh.
Where, in the back of the eye, where you can actually see the capillaries, the tiniest of the blood vessels.
Yeah.
In our bodies, the tiniest blood vessels, called capillaries, are actually so small that each individual red blood cell has to fold over on itself in order to go through.
Wow.
And it's designed that way on purpose. A red blood cell is shaped kind of like a donut, except there's not a hole all the way through, but it's thinner in the middle.
Okay.
And it's designed that way on purpose so that it can fold over on itself, so that gives maximum contact between the red blood cell and the capillary walls to transfer nutrients and oxygen and waste products, etc. Well, just like you mentioned, for instance, if someone is eating a lot of sweets, sugar just makes the blood cells stiffer. Smoking affects this the same way.
Wow.
It makes them stiffer, so they actually can't fold over on themselves. And they've actually demonstrated this in the electron scanning microscope, where you can see the red blood cells stacking up against each other, trying to get through the capillaries. They can't get through efficiently because of this problem. So it is huge in circulation.
Wow.
And of course, not having enough water in your system is also affects that.
He's going to drink water
We all
now.
reach for water.
All of
I
us.
guess it's the only time that they can allow us to drink water. Let's increase our blood fluidity on the program.
So what happens when you smoke?
Well, a lot of things. One of the things is it does make the blood cells stiffer, the red blood cells. It also makes your platelets stickier. The platelets are, part of the clotting system. So when you cut yourself, you want them to be sticky in that area because that's what helps to clot the blood.
Yeah.
But you don't want them sticky when they're just flowing through your system.
Wow.
And so that can actually cause problems with that as well.
The other problem with smoking is you're producing carbon monoxide.
Oh, wow.
And carbon monoxide has something like 200 times the affinity or the attraction for hemoglobin. So your body is going to get, your red blood cells that carry oxygen are going to be overwhelmed with that carbon monoxide.
So they're choking.
Yes, basically it's decreasing your ability to carry oxygen. The body's response to it, if you're a chronic smoker, is to make more red blood cells. Then you might say, hey, well, that's good, but more red blood cells actually decrease blood fluidity. So a higher hemoglobin is not desirable. So yeah, it's a whole vicious,
It's like more traffic.
Cycle. Exactly.
You're increasing the traffic because the traffic that's already there can't get through.
Exactly.
So you're saying the answer to that is let's send more cars. And they're saying, well, we
With
can't.
the cigarette.
Right, we can't get through, so what do you think those more cars are going to do? I'm trying to make it palatable. I could understand the cars. But that is really interesting that people think that somehow that smoking is not going to make that much of a difference. But it does some serious damage to the blood cells.
It also decreases, it increases pain and increases healing time. It makes it harder for people's injuries like back pain. People who smoke have worse problems with that and more difficult time healing from injuries or from back pain, this kind of thing. So.
Wow. So which one of these would you recommend? I know we talked about Methuselah factor. Somebody might not even know who Methuselah is.
Oh, true.
Somebody might be, Methuselah.
Yeah.
Who is that guy?
Hold that up.
Yeah, the Methuselah.
Yeah, so Methuselah, according to the Bible, was the oldest living person on this planet.
That's right.
Okay, so he lived to be 969 years of age.
Yeah.
And so what I like to say is, although we have no blood work on Methuselah, that we have no documentation of any parameter, but we can be confident that he had to have good hemorrheology, good blood fluidity. So we call it the Methuselah factor. That's a term I've used for many years just because a lot of people are like you, John. They don't want to remember that term hemorrheology.
Okay.
So we call it the Methuselah factor. We cut everybody some slack.
Wow.
Now, what about supplements? Are they the best alternative to drugs when it comes to these conditions?
Well, supplements, there are supplements that can be helpful, there's no question. Things to use for, that can help lower blood pressure. But we don't ever tell people to just take supplements and keep living there. The thing is, most people really need to change their lifestyle.
Exactly.
They need to change what they're eating, what they're drinking, you know, increase the exercise, all these things. If you don't change your lifestyle and just start taking supplements, that's not the answer.
Okay, I get you. Because
They can help, but they're not the answer.
okay.
But having said that, in the blood pressure book, the chapter 12 is exclusively on supplements.
Oh.
So we do have a whole list of what we thought, you know, looking through the medical literature, what are the best supplements for high blood pressure. But Sonja's exactly right. That's chapter 12, which is
Okay.
toward the end of the book. So we're encouraging people to control stress, to exercise, to eat better, going through all those things. And then supplements are toward the end of the book. And she's exactly right. If I had to choose one thing for my patients, I wouldn't say, you know, get better supplements for your diabetes and high blood pressure. We'd say change that lifestyle. That's where you didn't get there because you had a lack of coenzyme Q10 in your water.
Yeah.
Okay? Even though CoQ10 is one of those supplements that can help lower blood pressure, you got there because of those food choices. Yeah, maybe genetic factors, your lack of exercise, your extra weight, your stress management techniques or lack of them. You get the picture.
Because my family, they take a lot of blood pressure medication, and they live off of that. What about, we talked about natural remedies. How about garlic? How good is garlic?
Garlic is on the list of things that have beneficial properties. In fact, garlic, one of the things that garlic is, it has helps to make prebiotics. So a lot of people have heard of probiotics, and they say, well, what are prebiotics? So probiotics are these good germs that now we've found are linked to all kinds of health benefits. And by the way, in our book on the chapter on supplements, probiotics have been demonstrated to lower blood pressure. But there are also prebiotics. These are factors in foods that actually help us to have better germs, better flora in our gut that also help to lower our blood pressure.
And those prebiotics are found in, guess where? Plant foods, whole plant foods.
Okay.
Including garlic.
Including garlic,
What
yes.
about gut health? Does that have anything to do?
Huge. Gut health has a huge part to play, more than we ever realized before. There's a whole discipline studying that now, the microbiome and how that affects our health. So it's definitely a big factor, and how diet affects the gut health, the microbiome.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about gut health. Somebody told me that a lot of what happens in your body starts in your gut.
There's definitely truth in that.
And of course, what happens in your gut is greatly affected by what we put in here.
Oh. I like that idea. So remind them, honey, we need some, if they want to send questions in
Yes,
tonight.
if you want to send questions in, 618-228-3975, or you can email us at
live@3abn.tv, and the phone number is to text them in. Most people text nowadays. Very few people want to.
It's actually to text your questions in, so don't call, send a text or email.
That's 618-228-3975, or if you want to send an email, live@3abn.tv.
Send it in. We'd love to hear from you.
That's right, and we want to make sure, we have, the doctors are in for a house call tonight.
That's true, you got it.
I know, a free house call. That's wonderful.
I'm looking at some of these chapters in here, and we want to just kind of, heart attack, okay?
Oh. That runs in my family. Oh.
I mean, we can't tell of all the things, but you mentioned some things in a moment ago about exercise, diet, minimizing stress. Talk about heart attacks for a moment.
Yeah, in fact, because we're talking about blood fluidity, I'll actually turn to that chapter because we've got a great graphic in there, and it's actually figure 4, and it says Methuselah factor components and relative risk of a major ischemic heart event. So an ischemic heart event is where the heart doesn't get adequate blood supply. It's on page 26, if you guys want to follow along with us, figure 4. And one of the factors there that is listed is fibrinogen. So fibrinogen is a blood clotting protein. And there's a variety of lifestyle things that raise fibrinogen. To tie it in with some things we've talked about, cigarette smoking will raise your fibrinogen level. But what I want you to notice here, when you have a higher fibrinogen level, it can increase your risk roughly 4 times, a 4-fold increased risk of having a heart attack or similar event. And the point is, all these lifestyle factors interact with these different components. We talked about drinking water, viscosity. So if you want to keep your blood less viscous, you want to do what John's doing right now and keep close to the water. Don't, have a good team like you got at 3ABN and make sure when you're doing a program, they're stocking us up with water, right?
Honey?
Right.
That's what you want. So keeping
My wife,
hydrated
yes.
keeps the blood viscosity down. You can see again. So these are not small things. This is not a 5% increase, a 10%
Yes.
increase. We're talking a 4-fold, 5-fold increased risk of a heart event. So the whole point is simply lifestyle is powerful and it impacts us through things. In fact, we were just talking, someone called us today. We can't take every single call that we get, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
yeah.
this was someone out of state calling. They had our number, had kind of the in for us. We'll probably give that out, despite our better judgment. But anyway, so they called about someone who was having heart issues in their family. And as we were talking through things, we were talking about these lifestyle factors. We say, well, they said, well, our cholesterol's good, our blood pressure's good. How can we be having heart disease? Well, it's because there's all these other factors that we don't typically measure. Wow. And these things are also impacted by our lifestyle.
That's interesting because when we go to the doctor, what they usually take is your blood pressure,
Yeah.
and your systolic and dystolic, and then your heart rate and your temperature and your weight. But there's some other things that are not measurable with those instruments that could make a difference.
Huge.
Well, yeah, and even doing an EKG, somebody comes into the office with chest pain, you would order a bunch of blood work and you do an EKG, and the EKG may look fine. If they're not actually having a heart attack, it may look perfect. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have blockages, partial blockages in your heart. So there's other tests that can tell that,
Wow.
give some better ideas for that. But
So you wrote a book about the 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure, which I want to kind of look at some of that nowadays because blood pressure, it has the word pressure in that, and I think we all live in some kind of pressure environment. But let's talk about blood pressure for a moment. For those who may have heard the term but are not really familiar with how it happens, what actually makes blood pressure?
Okay, so basically blood pressure is the pressure that your heart generates. So there's first the systolic phase, that's when the heart is beating,
Yes.
and that is the maximum pressure that leaves the heart. And then the lower number is diastolic.
and that's between heartbeats, the lowest pressure. So between the beat of the heart when it's resting, that's the diastolic.
Okay,
And they're both important.
Say that again, honey?
Nothing.
Okay, because we go to the doctor and, they said, oh, you got an athlete's heart, So systolic is the top one, and diastolic
Bottom.
is the bottom one. So the top one means what, one more time?
When the
180
pressure
or-
is the highest, when the heart beats, the highest pressure generated as that heart beats, that's the systolic, the top number.
Okay.
And then the diastolic number is the one between heartbeats. So when the vessel is more relaxed. So if that number is high, it could be telling you that the vessel is stiffer and not able to relax as much. Maybe it's, there's a lot of plaque in there that's making it stiff, calcified cholesterol deposits that is making it stiffer, so it can't relax as much, it can't collapse down as much.
Yeah, but what do we have, honey?
We have we have pretty good blood pressure, don't we? It's usually like 112 or 106 over.
Oh, that is
That's
good.
excellent.
Over
61
90.
or-
Is it 60?
90 is pretty high for
Oh, no.
us.
Yeah. If
That
you
would-
ever
That
get
would be that would be high. So over 60 would sound
70,
like a
more
little more.
70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I gave you those books a while back. It looks like you put them to good use.
Yeah, well, my wife is a water consumer.
That's a
She's
good
the one that
habit.
tells me,
good.
she walk in the house at lunchtime, how many glasses have you drank today?
That's
And I'm glad we brought I'm glad we bought
I
these
bought
sizes.
these are easier to drink
Yeah,
when you're at home.
Yeah, let me kind of encourage our audience because some of you,
Yeah.
there are people that carry these huge water bottles,
And they sip 'em.
and they sip them all day long. I know somebody who does it. I won't say it was my sister, so I didn't say that.
Yeah, your
She has
sister.
this huge water bottle, and it's like as filled 4 o'clock in the evening as it was in the morning. And my niece said, she has a water bottle, but it stays full almost
Full
all
all
day
day.
long. And they sip it. Why is it that we've been told, and you in the medical field, it's best to have at least 8 glasses of water a
I
day?
put lemon in mine.
Well, think of it this way. Your body is 65 to 70% water.
Okay.
So I often use this illustration with my patients. I tell them, if you don't have a dishwasher and you're doing your dishes in the kitchen sink, would they get very clean if you only wash them in 1 or 2 cups of water?
Oh no, that's a good one.
Now that,
Well, our bodies can't get clean, so to speak, either inside if we don't have enough water. And that's just one of the things is cleansing, of getting rid of the toxins. But it's just for the whole blood fluidity that we've been talking about. It's just important for all kinds of functions in our body. It has to have adequate water to work effectively.
and before we go to the next question, I want to ask you about visual impairment. I notice there's a chapter in here in this book, The Methuselah Factor, about visible impairment. And the reason I'm asking that is because sometimes people go to the doctor and say, well, my eyes, I'm really having a difficult time to see.
Eat carrots.
Let me just kind of share the good news with the audience that's listening. My eye prescription hasn't changed in 10, 12 years.
Praise the Lord.
And I just told my wife today, I said, I have 8 pairs of glasses. And she said, can you use them all? I could use them all.
That's
Every
good.
time I go to the doctor, I said,
Awesome.
nothing's changed.
Mine
Nothing's
always
changed.
changing. I'm
Well,
always-
because you work on a computer all day long.
Yeah, that's
That's a
That
fact.
does make a difference.
That makes a
my
difference.
vision's gotten
But
so
talk about
bad.
that water and visual impairment.
Well, let's talk about water and the whole subject of the Methuselah factor, okay? Because blood fluidity has a huge role in preserving your vision for 3 reasons that we'll talk about, briefly. The first one, the leading cause of visual impairment in America right now, if you're talking about losing your vision, it's diabetes.
Wow.
And what we know is if we improve our blood fluidity, we can decrease our risk of vision complications and diabetic complications in general. But there's 2 other causes. A lot of people don't have diabetes and they've got vision problems. 2 of the other big robbers of sight are glaucoma, which is an abnormal buildup of pressure in the eye, and then something called macular degeneration, where the most sensitive part of the retina, called the macula, actually begins to deteriorate or is damaged. And all of these, both glaucoma and macular degeneration, like diabetes, are also linked to blood fluidity. The worse your blood fluidity, the worse your vision, the greater your likelihood of having glaucoma or macular degeneration. In the chapter in the Methuselah Factor book where we talk about it, we actually have some of the same factors that we talked about, like fibrinogen and viscosity, that increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. They increase your risk of having glaucoma or macular degeneration. So the message is you want to improve your blood fluidity.
Yeah.
The book gives you 30 simple steps. Those same 30 simple steps are in our free program. So no one has to buy a book.
Yes.
I know. I mean, I'm a reader, so I like to buy books. I've got Kindle books here with me. I've got physical
too,
books.
yeah.
But for many people, they're not readers. We say, sign up. Go to timelesshealinginsights.org. Sign up for the 30-day program, and we'll walk you through many of these principles.
I like that because people like when you break it down, because right now if we're saying, well, you don't know what your health risk is, right? Dr.
Or even better, sign up for the program and get the book and follow along. Read the book as well, because there's a lot of, you can't cover in 5 to 6 minutes on a video as much material as there is in the book.
And it's available through Amazon? also?
They're both available on Amazon. They're both as audiobooks or physical copies. And they're very well written, very, very easy to understand and read. You don't have to have a medical degree to understand them. They're written for the average person to understand, which makes it nice, I think.
That makes a difference. Let's see what that one is all about. While you're looking at that, let me go to another one. Mental clarity.
Oh, I like that one.
Mental clarity.
What can we do
And
to
it
help?
says, and decrease your risk of dementia.
Oh, tell them about the music thing.
Oh,
Dementia. Listen to this. Share with them.
someone was just telling me that listening to music has helped people that have some factors of dementia. It kind of wakes up their brain. I'm just such a novice in this area. And I guess it increases brain fluidity. I don't know if that's the term.
Well, I mean, music is powerful for a number of reasons. And I mean, you got some great people who I've heard on 3ABN who are experts in this, so I won't wade into their territory. But exactly right, we're talking about a comprehensive program. And, all of these things that are inputs into our brain. One of the interesting things that we cover in the Methuselah Factor book is just the simple relationship with blood fluidity, again, as measured by viscosity. So when you're drinking more water, as your viscosity decreases, okay? So water has low viscosity. Honey has high viscosity. So when you're drinking more water, your viscosity is lower. There's a direct relationship between mental performance and lower viscosity. The lower your viscosity, the better your brain functions. So if you're not getting enough water, your brain is not going to function as well as if you're well hydrated.
It's funny you said that because I know someone told me about someone was in a nursing home and their mind was just drifting, and they said, give them a glass of water. And they came back to themselves from water. This is a true story. Just from drinking water? Is that possible?
It's amazing stuff. It's amazing.
Dr. Sonja, what you said a moment ago kind of helps me understand it. I like the way you put it in practical, easy to understand visual aids. When you do that dishwasher thing or washing your dishes with 2 cups of water,
good. Yeah.
I don't wash dishes. I'd rather clean the entire building than wash a dish. My wife does the dishwashing in the house. I'll do anything not to wash dishes.
And I'm fine with that.
She's fine with that. But that's an amazing thing because we rely on water to do so many things. Wash our cars, make our plants grow, shower every day. Water plays a major role externally. But what I hear you saying is don't exclude water on the internal clarities either.
That's right.
How many glasses of water do you recommend a day?
Well, an easy way to get an idea of the minimum amount of water that you should drink is to take your weight in pounds, cut that in half, and that's the minimum number of ounces you should be drinking daily.
Wow.
For an average person. Now, I mean,
Wow. So that,
if somebody
weight
were
and divide that by
like
2?
Yes,
I'll be
in
drinking
pounds.
300 ounces a day.
You weigh 600 pounds?
No.
If someone weighed 600 pounds, you wouldn't do that, okay? But for someone, average, for the average person, that's a good rule of thumb. And then you need to add more if you're perspiring a lot, if it's really hot out, you've been working out.
I get it now. It makes more sense.
Yeah, and there's exceptions too. So I mean,
Sure,
if you're
there are exceptions.
If you're on diuretics, if you have heart failure, kidney problems,
failure.
Yeah.
I mean, but in general, that's a very good rule of thumb for a healthy person.
What about cancer? I notice you have a chapter in your book here, improve your Methuselah factor, decrease your risk of cancer.
This is one of the most amazing ones. We talk about, heart attack and stroke, and everybody says, oh yeah, that's related to circulation. How would it be related to cancer?
Right.
We cover a number of things in the book, but let me just tell you about one study. They actually did a study on women who had female cancers, like ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, things like that. And they measured their blood fluidity before their surgery for cancer.
Yes.
They followed them over time. Those that had the best blood fluidity had the lowest rate of spread of the cancer, lowest rate of metastatic disease and death. And the researchers said, well, why would this be? And the idea that they put forth in this medical journal was if your blood is not flowing freely in your body, it allows little microclots to form in the capillaries. Cancer cells can then lodge in those little clots and can be relatively isolated from the immune system for long enough to get a foothold. Yeah, so, and there's a lot more to it, but there's this connection between blood fluidity, even if you've had the diagnosis of cancer. Improve your Methuselah factor, and there's research suggesting that you can decrease your risk of recurrence or fare better with that cancer diagnosis.
That makes sense because,
Fluidity.
but look what happens now. Let's look at this whole, the blood fluidity, the carrying of oxygen. If it all slows down, oxygen is being robbed, and the cancer thrives in a non-oxygenated environment.
I mean, there's so much to this. There's another part of it that I didn't include here, but I'll throw it in right now.
Right.
And that has to do with the platelets, okay? These are the clotting cells in the body. But if you have your coagulation system disordered, some of these cells that normally protect your body, they can actually sequester or hide cancer cells. And they work counterproductive to you. And then these cells, again, can get a foothold, can remain undetected from the immune system. So, I mean, when we talk about some of these concepts in short order. I know people's eyes can glaze over. We try to explain it a little bit better in the book. But the bottom line is the Methuselah factor is incredibly important for optimal function of the brain, of the body, and also avoiding many of these killer diseases and diseases that rob us of quality of life.
Wow, wow.
One of the other things that's really important with that is people often say, well, I drink plenty of fluids. I drink, sodas. I drink caffeine. I have lots of fluids at coffee. I have plenty of fluid throughout the day. But that actually not only does not take the place of water, it is worse than not drinking water. They did a study in Loma Linda, I believe it was, and those who had, and you may have to help me on the statistics, but if it was people who drank less than 2 cups of water a day versus more, versus 5, 2 or less versus 5 or more, and just that difference, and 5, I mean, that's a very little bit of water. That's way less than what we really should be drinking. But
Don't
even
give my
that
wife
difference,
any ideas. I mean, you're
that made a huge difference. It was like double. What was it? Double the risk? I have to look up the numbers.
Roughly double.
I think it roughly doubled the risk of heart attack or stroke
See how important
from
it is.
just those 3 cups of water. So if you were drinking 2 or less, you had like double the risk of dying from heart, or was it dying from it? I have to remember myself.
Wow.
Yes, daily water drinking, relative risk of fatal heart disease.
You've got it there on page 128.
Yeah, page 128 on the book.
Yeah.
You know, honey,
So
I'm going to listen
less
to my
than 2
wife.
glasses of water
Go on.
versus greater than 5 glasses of water, like cut the risk in half. But then the other thing is they looked at the other fluids instead of that. So if people were drinking if they were drinking greater than 5 glasses of other fluids like soft drinks or caffeine or tea or whatever, it increased their risk of fatal heart disease 2.5 times.
It's
Compared
pages
to less
120,
than 2
Angie,
glasses
it's
of other
pages
fluids per
128
day.
and
Yeah, we're looking
128,
at it. There's-
129.
You got it. Okay.
So
yeah.
it's really huge, and I mean, there's multiple factors, but one of the things, besides all the sugar and the bad stuff in a lot of the sodas,
Right.
It's just sad.
the caffeine dehydrates you, so it actually makes you lose more fluid. So it's actually worsening your blood fluidity.
Now, I'm glad you brought that
Me too.
up because a lot of people are the addictive factor of caffeine. And with this, latte market and the mocha latte and the la latte and whatever these things are that sound so highly falutin, and everybody's in the Starbucks line and not in the hydrotherapy line. And it just seems so fashionable to slowly destroy your health.
Wow.
Talk to that a moment.
Well,
Because
the other thing about the caffeinated beverages is caffeine works on a compound called adenosine. And adenosine is a healthy blood fluidity enhancing compound. So when you drink that caffeine, not only are you getting the diuretic effects, but you're also making your platelets more sticky. You're raising your blood pressure. You're raising your blood sugar. Caffeine does all of those things. So it's really totally deleterious when you look at the picture. Now, a lot of people say, but it's such a small raise in blood pressure.
I've heard that.
There was a physician writing to other physicians about this topic, and basically we actually have the study in the blood pressure book. In so many words, he said, this is a relationship, caffeine and blood pressure, that we need to take more seriously as healthcare professionals. And he linked it to literally thousands of deaths from heart attack and stroke when you actually look at the data.
Wow. Thousands.
I'm learning here. I mean, I'm not a caffeine person. I just
No, we don't do any
totally
caffeine
sure.
whatsoever.
But sometimes there are other things that may not be as damaging as you mentioned the caffeine. But if you decide to be an herbal tea drinker all day long and your water levels are still low, what are the similarities?
Well, there are some herbal teas that actually we do recommend. So one we'll go on record of recommending. It's in our 12th chapter of the blood pressure book. It's hibiscus tea. So hibiscus
that.
tea, yeah, has
It
natural,
lowers blood pressure.
natural blood pressure lowering properties. So, and you know, we've got good evidence of things like, you know, red clover tea and other things that you've read about. There are healthful herb teas, but let's face it, when people are drinking a lot of other beverages, it's not because they're drinking typically more red clover and hibiscus tea, okay?
Because
When
you
I
don't
was
get-
when I was speaking of tea, I was referring to the green tea or black tea, the teas that have the caffeine and the zeaxanthines in it, these compounds that cause these other issues.
I'm glad you clarified that, because
Yeah.
some people say, I drink tea, but then you're getting the same caffeine effect from those things.
Right. Yeah. So an herbal tea, as in, like we just mentioned, the red clover, peppermint,
And we do
those kind of things.
Yeah,
They
and we-
actually can be used as medicinal.
And we do recommend certain herb teas for people. I mean, there are natural sedative teas. I mean, four of the
Right,
natural
caffeine-free.
sedative teas that we're likely to recommend, and you know, if we're dealing with a patient who has sleep issues, for example. And I usually say I give them to them in increasing order of potency and decreasing order of palatability.
Okay.
Okay.
So it could taste
So one of the ones that most people are fine with is chamomile. So chamomile is a natural sedative tea. Okay.
My wife always tried to inoculate me with chamomile. You need to go to bed.
Sleepy time tea.
Yeah, there you go. It's an active ingredient in a lot of these herb blends. But as you start moving down the list, there's some things that are better sedatives, like catnip and hops and valerian. But remember, they're in decreasing order of palatability
Right,
as
you
well.
don't-
Just try drinking some valerian tea.
like-
I don't know of anyone who says they
Haven't
really
heard of
like
that.
the taste of it.
I've never heard of that. I've heard of the catnip and the other one.
Yeah, valerian, you'll be looking around to see if you did your laundry lately, most people say. It sounds like, it smells like dirty laundry to some people.
It's not
Okay.
tasty at all.
We are not highly recommend malaria. Stop with cat.
Could you mix it with some peppermint tea to hide the flavor and still get the benefit?
Yeah, you may want to do that.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think of that?
Okay, nothing. I'm not. Okay, you have free online programs for 30-day videos.
That's-
For 30 daily videos, right? You talked about the 30-day lifestyle program that was previously on 3ABN in connection with your book, The Methuselah Factor. How do these programs differ?
Okay, so yeah, let me kind of explain that, because a lot of
Yeah,
people, they say, well, how, you've got a
Right.
30-day blood pressure
Yeah.
program, the Methuselah Factor, uses a 30-day outline, and then you've got these free videos. So basically, to try to make it as simple as we can, what we've got there right now for all our listeners, all our viewers, is the new website,
Okay.
www.timelesshealinginsights.org. If they go on there right now, they can sign up. They can basically say, I want to start in this 30-day program. Like Sonja said, we've got a 1-hour overview. We've got some testimonials in it. It's kind of like a news magazine format.
yeah.
We've got free handouts. But then every day you're going to get an email, if you want it. You opt in. If you want an
signed up
email, we'll
for
say,
it.
hey, here's your assignment for today. The videos average 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
Oh,
Okay?
nice and
Now,
short.
one day it might be 3.5 minutes, another day it might be 6.5. You get the point.
Yeah.
But we walk you through 30 daily challenges. Now you say, well, how does that fit in with these other things? Those 30 daily challenges are virtually identical to the 30 daily challenges in the Methuselah Factor book.
Okay.
Okay? The free videos, though, especially go along with high blood pressure and diabetes. Okay, so that's the free program that we've got at timelesshealinginsights.org. If someone says, but I don't have high blood pressure, I don't have diabetes,
Tell them about the updated.
Yeah.
you tell us about that. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Tell us, Sonja.
There is also available an updated, a professionally produced version of the 30 videos. It has more than just high blood pressure and diabetes, but it's like covers that and some other material as well. Those are a little bit longer, but still not. What are they? 10 to 12 minutes? I don't remember. Something like that.
Yeah.
And those are available as a digital download on the web, on our website, or a DVD set for a very reasonable price, I think. But
Okay.
Yeah, so the point Sonja's making is the free videos, they're me just talking in my office, on camera, okay? So it's nothing professional. The other, we have an upgraded series that is aired on television. I don't know that 3ABN has shown them, but so it's, production quality stuff, and that
It is also him, but it's, doing them, but
right.
it's...
It has the B-roll and the, people cooking and exercise.
nice.
Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah,
like
and
that.
the professional graphics and stuff. So if someone wants an upgraded version that goes specifically with the Methuselah Factor book, and is not just limited to blood pressure and diabetes, that's what she was referring to. And that really highlights the difference in the programs. So this is a blood pressure book, the original free 30-day program that's now at timelesshealinginsights.org. That blood pressure and diabetes is the focus. Methuselah Factor is a little bit broader, mental performance, physical performance, etc.
What I'm listening to is preventative health,
It is.
rather than later on you have like 17 medications you have to take a day.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that are maybe watching the program that are probably fighting with some of those very areas of
True.
I've visited people sometimes and I look on their table and I don't know how they know what to take.
Thank God we don't have to take any medications.
Could I give the story about going
I
to
knew you
Australia?
would.
This
Go ahead.
fits right here.
Yeah.
When we went to Australia a few years ago and when we went through customs, they said, do you have any medication to declare? And I said, no, we don't. They said, sir, do you have any medication to declare? I said, we don't. They said, everybody from America has a medication to declare. And I thought to myself,
Sure
we
did.
don't. And I felt really, really good. And people ask you, are you on medication? No, we're not. And that's a blessing.
It is.
Lord.
My wife is really into salads. I mean, she just
Great
makes
stuff.
sure that every meal we have good salads,
Or vegetables.
vegetables, and that's something else. Your kitchen, as well as your daily habits, can make a difference in the kind of lifestyle that you live.
What is that saying? That medicine?
Let food be your medicine, and medicine
Yes,
be your food.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is so, so true. If
And-
people would just eat lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, if they would make their diet of that, and people, and there's ways of preparing that food, so it's, it's very palatable, delicious. If they would do that and eat and drink lots of water and exercise and just put these things into practice and leave off the smoking and drinking and all these other things, we would be out of a job, and that would be wonderful.
Wow.
Well, we
Really,
don't want to put you
because
out of
there
a
would be-
job, but we want to make sure
Well,
that we do the right thing.
95% of people that we treat probably we would not need to be treating,
True.
Well,
which would be delightful.
Yeah, and I want to let our audience know we're just scratching the surface. What we're hearing, though, is many of you are wanting to have, don't we
Send
want
your
to be healthy?
question. Yes, send
Don't
your
forget to send your
questions
questions in, 618-228-3975 or live at 3abn.tv for the second hour. We already have some questions,
Yeah.
and we'll be back in just a few minutes, so don't go away. You want to hear the rest of the story. If you've joined us in the first hour, you heard about the Methuselah factor, and some of you heard the word Methuselah for the first time, but he is the oldest guy that ever lived in the Bible.
was.
He was, 969. Now, in this day and age, that's a great aggressive number to shoot for, but it's not going to happen in this life. But you can have optimum health.
Abundant life.
Abundant life.
Yeah.
And I have a wife that really believes in that. She wants to hydrate me and make sure I eat my vegetables
And fruits.
and fruits. Oh,
Don't
I'm
leave
being
that.
rebuked right now because she buys a lot of fruits and she sometimes says to me, why am I the only one eating fruits around here? And I say, but honey, it tastes so much better when you peel the apples for me or when you peel the
I slice it,
tangerines.
oh, yeah, he
And
likes
so-
me to peel it.
And it makes a difference.
And he says it tastes better that way.
When I do it, it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't make a difference. But, we want to let you know, still send your questions in.
Questions.
And if they text them, where do they send them, honey?
Oh, you can text us 618-228-3975.
That's right. Or you could email them at live@3abn.tv. We want to make sure that you send them in. We have some questions already.
Yeah, we do.
But we're going to go to a song. And what do we have, honey?
Farah is going to share with us A Quiet Place.
There is a quiet place, far from the rapid pace, where God can soothe my troubled mind. Sheltered by tree and flower, there in my quiet hour with Him, my cares are left behind. Whether a garden small or on a mountain tall, new strength and courage there I find. Then from this quiet place I go prepared to face a new day with love for all mankind. Sheltered by tree and flower, there in my quiet hour with Him, my cares are left behind. Whether a garden small or on a mountain tall, new strength and courage there I find. Then from this quiet place I go prepared to face a new day with love for all mankind. Then from this quiet place I go prepared to face a new day with love for all mankind.
Thank you so much, Farah. A Quiet Place. Amen. Wonderfully played. And you know, you want a quiet life. When I say a quiet life, people that are frequent at the doctors, I know there's some things that we cannot necessarily avoid.
True.
But what we're talking about today is preventative health. How we can not wait. We could do certain things to not increase. I like the way a doctor said it. They said, you could make sure they get unemployed by living healthy lives, but that won't really happen.
No, not in this world.
One person once said, instead of your doctor going on vacation, if you're in good health, you could go on vacation.
All that money.
But thank you for being here, Dr. David and Sonja DeRose. We've enjoyed the first hour. If you're just joining us, I want to remind you that you can send some questions in because we're talking about the Methuselah factor.
Yes.
And 30 days, what's the title of that one, honey?
30 days to natural blood pressure control in just 30 days? Really?
Yeah.
I love this.
Some people think that having blood pressure is inevitable. I've heard some people say, well, I'm older now, you know, it comes with age.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true, and I'll throw that question out to our doctors a moment from now. But if you have any questions and you're just joining us, you can send those to live@3abn.tv, or you can text at 618-228-3975. And we want to really get as many questions as we can in for this hour because, hey, guess what? Free medical advice tonight. Yes, doctors David and Sonja DeRose, what do you have for them, honey?
What can a person do, this is first question, about pancreatic flare-up?
Okay, they're probably talking about pancreatitis. So pancreatitis is an inflammation of the pancreas. Pancreas is a vital organ that kind of operates behind the scenes for most of us.
What does it do?
So the pancreas is involved with digestive functions. It's involved with the production of insulin. So it has a number of very important functions. But most of the time it's just silent unless it flares up. If you get pancreatitis, it can be life-threatening, an inflammation of the pancreas. A number of things increase your risk of problems. One of them that's a big factor is alcohol. So individuals, if they're using any alcoholic beverages, should be 0 if you have a history of pancreas issues or if you just want to keep your pancreas healthy. Another common problem is gallstones. So if a gallstone gets lodged in what we call the common bile duct, it's a duct that drains not only the gallbladder, but also the pancreas. And then the digestive enzymes made by the pancreas to break down your food, instead of breaking down the food, they can back up and actually eat up the pancreas. So that's another common connection. And then the third one that I'll mention here, because we're talking about ways to prevent it, so it's making sure if you've got gallstones, you address those. If you're drinking alcohol, avoid that. But the third one that a lot of people miss has to do with high blood fats, especially triglycerides. Those will also put you at risk of pancreatitis.
What is it called?
High triglycerides.
High blood.
High blood fat. It's a blood fat, one of the blood fats, like cholesterol.
Okay.
But even though triglycerides are a blood fat, the main thing that raises them is increased sugar in your diet. So alcohol is a huge contributor to high triglycerides. Alcohol is, that may give me a funny look, but a lot of people do the same thing. When I tell them that, it's like, they what? They say, what? But it's really true. Alcohol is one of the most calorically dense foods on the planet. Food, it shouldn't be classified as food, but things that people consume. Pure sugar has 4 calories per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram. Alcohol has 7 calories per gram.
Oh my.
Pure fat is 9 calories per gram. So it's getting close to the highest, calorically dense thing we have as fat. And that is what raises those blood, the triglycerides, one of the blood fats. So alcohol or soft drinks or just sugar, hidden sugars in all kinds of foods, which is another topic we haven't really addressed. But if you really want to be healthy, read nutrition labels. They are vitally important because you don't know by tasting something necessarily how much sugar or salt is in it, because for one thing, they hide the flavor of each other. Salt will hide the flavor of sugar and vice versa. Sugar hides the flavor of salt.
Sodium.
So those things are very important. Read nutrition labels. You should have at least a minimum of 5 times as many total carbohydrates in a food as grams of sugar, at least. But if you go down the grocery store, down the cereal aisle, most of those cereals that are, especially ones marketed to kids, they should be in the candy aisle.
Yes.
I mean, like 50% of their calories are coming from sugar.
Glucose.
And they break it down, manufacturers are very astute with this because they're required by law to list ingredients in order of their volume, their amount. So instead of just putting sugar and making it have to be the first ingredient, they have all different kinds of sugars. So then maybe they'll use high fructose corn syrup, they'll use fructose and honey and glucose or sucrose or, all these different forms of sugar. But you add them all together and they would be the first ingredient on the,
they're so
list.
slick.
So that's something else to keep in mind.
And what about alcohol? People will say a little wine is good for the heart. What would you say?
Well,
How would you answer that?
it is true that for some people, if they're on a bad enough diet, that they're not eating any fruits or vegetables, then they might get some benefit, heart benefit. The reason that gives heart benefit is because wine is made from grapes, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, when it's turned to alcohol, it doesn't take away all the helpful compounds that were in the grapes. So if people are not getting fruit from any other source, yes, they may get a small amount of benefit from that.
Right.
But if you're otherwise, if you're eating fruits and vegetables, whole, plant foods, you get no benefit and just all the, you're all, of course, getting the bad side effects.
Yeah, the other way to answer the question that just looks at the flip side is if you take a look at people who eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. This was
Yes.
done with the Oxford Vegetarian Study, for example.
Yes.
They found that individuals getting plenty of fruits and vegetables get zero heart benefit when it comes to alcohol. And even those who are on lousy lifestyles, you might say, oh, well, we're getting some heart benefit.
Yeah.
It increases the risk of all-cause mortality.
Yes.
It increases the risk of cancer. So there's I don't know of any reputable public health professional looking at all the data that's saying drink alcohol for health, okay? It's
Right,
just a
exactly.
skewing of the data. Alcohol is not a health. If someone wants to drink alcohol and say, I'm doing it because I enjoy it, well, in our country you can do that.
own up to
okay?
it.
Yeah, just own up to it. It's not for your health, okay?
You're not in the local, wine store or whiskey store.
No.
Because you're, looking for optimum health.
You got it.
That's kind of really ridiculous. What other question do we have, honey?
How can I stop smoking? This is Odell from Texas.
Actually, smoking, there are a lot of things that you can do to help stop smoking.
Yes.
And I would encourage you to remember that the more times you quit and fail, statistically, the more likely you are to succeed the next time. So never give up.
Okay. I like
Never
that.
give up. And there are some tips that you can use to help you.
Yes.
For one thing, like we've been talking about, good blood fluidity, so that in drinking lots of water, eating lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, those kind of things help cleanse your system faster
Detox.
of the nicotine. Actually, what many people find is that the addiction is more a psychological addiction. I mean, it's worse to get over the psychological addiction than it is the physical addiction to the nicotine for a lot of people. Because the nicotine is out of your system within a few days.
That's true. The 3-day draw.
In fact, within 24 hours of stopping smoking, you cut your risk of dying from a heart attack in half.
Wow, within
Because it
24
makes, yes, because nicotine actually makes your heart more likely to have an arrhythmia when you have a heart attack. So you're more likely to die from a heart attack with nicotine on board. So you can cut that risk in half within 24 hours of stopping nicotine. But some tips as far as things to help quit.
Right.
Besides, like I said, drink lots of water, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, cleanse it out. Change up your program. If you're used to going somewhere say after dinner, you go sit somewhere with a cup of coffee and a cigarette. Don't go there. Don't go sit down there. Do something else. Go for a walk. Change your schedule. Rearrange your furniture if you have to.
I was just thinking of that.
Wash. Also, remember, the urge to smoke will go away in about 10 minutes, whether or not you give into it. So distract yourself. Do something else. A lot of people find it's helpful to hold a pen or a toothpick or something in their hand that they can put in their mouth.
Or some licorice.
Be careful with that though, because a lot of people will substitute eating for smoking, and that's not a good idea, because when you quit smoking, your taste buds will regenerate.
Yeah.
And food will actually taste better, so you'll even be more tempted to overeat.
Okay.
So be careful with that.
You guys for years on 3ABN have, aired Dr. Weaver's programs.
Oh, yes.
That are just
Dr.
great.
Weaver,
And
yes.
I know those are still available online. So if someone wants a great program that walks people through the steps, that's a great resource.
And you can also talk with your doctor, because there are also medications that can be used to help people over the hump, so to speak.
Yeah.
but just keep trying. Don't give up. Keep trying over and over until you overcome it, because it will be one of the best things you ever did for your health.
Hot and cold showers, all that.
Yes, in fact, I often tell my patients, if you want to smoke, if you have to, go take a shower, because you can't smoke in the shower very easily. And that urge is going to go away in a few minutes. It's going to come back. But each time you overcome, it gives you more strength to overcome the next time.
That's right. And, it's hard to light a cigarette in the shower.
Exactly. And the other thing is clean out all your stashes. If you have them in your purse, your car, your closet, get rid of everything. Because if you actually have to go to the store to buy some to smoke, it's going to be easier to overcome that temptation than if you have to have it handy right there.
I had a guy that we were getting ready for baptism, and when he talked, he smoked so much. When you talk, you kind of you get a dose of nicotine. And I said, now you've been asking for a long time that you want to quit. So do me a favor, give me your cigarettes. Do I have to? No, I don't. You don't have to, but you've been saying you want me to help you quit. Let's start with you giving me your cigarettes. And he said, all right. And he gave me his cigarettes. I said, now go in your car and get the other set of cigarettes in your car. How do you know I have cigarettes in my car? Every smoker has cigarettes in the car. Well, I'll get rid of them later. No, go get them now. And what I've discovered is you talk about the psychological thing. That's really a big part of it, because the body, God designed our bodies, and I've learned this, to heal itself, to fight against you killing it. The sooner you start participating with the way He built your body, the better your health is going to improve. Because my mom was a 2 to 3 pack of cigarettes a day,
every day,
and she drank. And this is before I met her. And when I told her one day, Mom, pray for God to deliver you. And the day that she had someone pray for her and was delivered, she went from a size 1 to a size 10, short Filipino lady. And she said to me, I've lost my craving, but I love food. And so she said, I'm a size 10 now, is that okay? But the body repairs itself. Talk about the repair factor.
No, it's amazing, really, and you've highlighted a really key factor in any lifestyle change, and we hear that expression, just do it.
Okay.
Well, what I say is, from a Christian standpoint, if you're praying about making changes in your lifestyle, if the Lord's impressing you to do something, just do it. God is not going to ask you to do something that He's not fully committed to give you the victory in. So this is one of the really key concepts. So it really starts there. But then as far as your body reprogramming, genetically, we talk about genetics being fixed. There's a whole science of epigenetics, genes that are turned on or turned off. When you change your lifestyle, it changes how your genes express themselves. Here's one of the things that I like about messaging when it comes to tobacco smoking. Tobacco smoke has a host of cancer-related chemicals. You've heard of carcinogens. These cause cancer. There are also co-carcinogens that work along with the carcinogens to cause cancer. But in cigarette smoke, there's also things called tumor promoters and tumor accelerators. The point is simply this. If someone is diagnosed with a smoking-related cancer, when they stop smoking, they stop feeding the cancer with these tumor accelerators. So yes, the body is designed by a creator, a loving creator, to reprogram itself and to cleanse itself with His blessing.
Wow.
And your mother, she died of small cell carcinoma.
And she had smoked for so long. Praise the Lord, she died in the Lord, though. I mean, she died a saved lady.
Praise the Lord.
And but okay, we have some questions.
Yeah, we got to go through them. We got quite a bit. Any recommendations for diabetes 1? This is Michelle from Illinois. Diabetes 1.
Type 1.
Type 1. Okay, type 1.
Well, actually, of course, as most people may or may not be aware, but anyway, diabetes type 1 is a different disease than type 2 diabetes. In other words, it has a different cause. And true type 1 diabetics have to take insulin to live, because their pancreas is not producing insulin anymore. At least after the honeymoon phase or whatever, it's basically they have to continue taking insulin. However, these same lifestyle principles can still make a huge difference in their lives to live healthy, productive, virtually disease-free lives.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And they want to know what's the name of the website again?
Okay.
That's an easy one. Yeah, so the new website is simply timelesshealinginsights.org. So it's a new website, so put in the www in front of it. We're finding that's working the best. www.timelesshealinginsights.org. And if you go there, you'll be able to sign up for the free 30-day program. You can opt in for email reminders every day. And also on that same website, we now have a daily devotional. So I'm reading through the book, The Upward Look, great Christian classic. If you want to get an audio devotional every day, you can sign up for that as well and get the daily reminders.
Amen. Here's another one. We have quite a bit, so I'm going to run through this. My sister was having problems breathing and found out that she had blood clots in her lungs. She's on blood thinners. What else can she do to dissolve the blood clots? She gets tired easily. She cannot talk very much. Mary from Oregon.
Well, this has been a common problem actually with COVID.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Many people end up with blood clots. I mean, it's relatively rare compared to the number of people that get COVID. In other words, I'm not trying to say everybody gets COVID gets blood clots.
Right.
But it's definitely increased because of that. And she is doing the right thing to be on blood thinners. That is very important because basically once the clot is there, your body has to dissolve it. Okay, you're taking the blood thinners to keep you from making more blood clots and to keep those from, because when you have a clot, it will it's easy for it to keep growing bigger and bigger if you're not on a blood thinner.
Right.
But general health, lifestyle, we've been talking about keeping your blood fluidity optimal is going to help you, is the best thing you could do, and follow your doctor's advice with the blood thinners.
Yeah,
So
jump on the Methuselah Factor program. Do the,
Yes.
do the free program.
That's
It's going
right.
to cover these bases.
Oh, wow, that's
right.
right. Another one. My family has a history of heart and kidney disease. Can this all be reversed if the principles are followed in your book?
Very reversible. At least, heart disease we've known for years now that lifestyle alone can reverse it. Back in 1990, Dean Ornish basically took what was an Adventist lifestyle, and he just his spiritual component, unfortunately, was Eastern meditation.
Right.
I say unfortunately because we could have done similar work as a people and published that kind of data.
Yeah.
But we've got great lifestyle programs that have been doing these lifestyle approaches. Heart disease reversible. Kidney disease, of course, anything you can get to a certain point where it's not reversible. But I was just talking with one of my colleagues, person got on this kind of lifestyle that we're talking about, and their kidney function steadily improved.
Wow.
So kidney function is able to be improved, as with blockages in heart blood vessels.
Wow.
Just like our cars respond to good fuel, clean air filters, all the things that if people would take as much care of their bodies as some people do with their cars, then how much more we'll get optimum health.
For sure.
What's the next question we have here?
Yes, Marva from Brooklyn. What's the name of the books on high blood pressure? What's
honey,
the name
show
of the
it there.
books? Which one is it? This
That's
one?
it. 30 days to natural blood pressure control.
And easiest place to get it is on Amazon.
Amazon.
That's right.
Same
Go
for
to
the other one.
Amazon.com, and it's one of the leading books.
It's consistently, if you look at blood pressure titles on Amazon, it's consistently in the top 10 blood pressure books. Yeah, so the Lord has really blessed, and a lot of people getting really great results.
Okay.
What are natural ways of reducing inflammation?
Well, same thing we've been talking about, really. I mean, it's well known that animal products are pro-inflammatory. They increase inflammation in your body. So the more meat you're eating, the more, whether it's red meat, white meat, chicken, turkey, fish, seafood, I don't care where it comes from, or dairy, and cheese is a special offender, or eggs, whatever. Any animal product is pro-inflammatory in your body. So the less you consume of that and the more you eat of plant foods, whole plant foods. I'm not talking about French fries and potato chips. Okay? No, those things, even though they may come from plant sources, they are no longer a whole food.
Right.
And they are no longer healthy for you. If it comes in a crinkly package ready to eat, you'd best off leave it on the shelf.
Yes.
Okay.
Go home and bake your potato, you know, instead of the potato chips.
Amen.
You know, steam that broccoli, make a good pot of bean soup. I mean, and there's all kinds of things you can do to make more fancy gourmet foods too, but you know, most of us don't have time to do that on a daily basis, but you can eat healthfully and with delicious taste and get all these benefits.
And the supermarket have so many organic sections.
Speaking of that, you know, it just reminded me, even they have actually found in multiple plant foods actual blood pressure lowering properties that are similar to the ACE inhibitors, which is one of the compounds, the most commonly prescribed blood pressure lowering medication, are found in these plant products, you know, broccoli and beans and potatoes.
I've heard of ACE inhibitors.
Yeah, that's like, it's all the ones that end in pril, the sinapril, you know, all of these different prils. Any drug that lands in a pril is an ACE inhibitor. It's one of the most commonly prescribed.
Yeah, it's figure
medications.
5.7. So we've
what
got a
page?
list of some of these natural
Okay.
occurring ACE inhibitors found in foods. So from broccoli to soybeans, mushrooms, peanuts. Here's the garlic again, corn, wheat. Yeah, so the creator. It's
What
amazing
about
thought.
edamame?
Edamame.
Soybeans, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the creator, I love this. The creator has put into these natural plant foods from the Garden of Eden. He put these properties in that would help heal us.
That's
And
right.
here's the thing. If one of my patients goes in and takes their blood pressure pill and says, look, I'm going to just take 20 of them, depending on what the pill is, this could be fatal.
That's
Right.
right.
But no one has ever ended up in an emergency room because they had too much broccoli and soybeans. At least I've never seen it, okay?
Yeah, that's so
Big
true.
Mac and French fries, you'll end up in
Yeah,
emergency.
man,
You know,
with that.
My good friend Doug Batchelor, we're good friends. We go back many years. But one day he was doing a Revelation seminar. He says, "You know, I've never ever seen anybody have a banana fit. I got to leave the room. I need a banana. I need a banana." You know, he has a clever way of communicating. Nobody ever has a fruit addiction. Oh, what's going on? Oh, I'm low on bananas. I'm low on strawberries. If anything addicts you, it's not good for you. Things that are
Caffeine.
addictive, not good for you.
Yes.
Typically true.
And I like what you said a moment, Dr. Sonja. If it comes in a crinkly package, you kind of stepped on my toes there, because every now and then I fall off the wagon and have barbecue chips. Not that every now and then is a bad thing, but you did make a point that my wife has told me too, because she gets the natural potatoes and she air fries them, and it's really good. And I said to her, "That's really good." She said, "Told you so." So she's determined to have me around a long
And even
time.
if you don't, even if you don't have an air fryer, you can still make potatoes very tasty. You can make your own French fries and just bake them.
Bake them.
You know, season
Yeah.
them, put them on a, you know, you may put them on a cookie sheet. Either use one of those silicone sheets to line it with, or even if you, you know, put a little bit of oil on the cookie sheet.
Yeah.
And season them. You can toss them with a little bit of seasoning and bake them. They're delicious.
Yes.
They're healthy, and you're getting the whole food rather than something that you can take from McDonald's, sit on the shelf for literally, people have done this, set it there for 5 years, and it looks identical to it when they put it there. It doesn't spoil.
No.
That's scary.
Wow. That is. Oy, oy, oy. Anyway, someone says, wow, it's a lot. I have a friend who's recently diagnosed with sickle cell disease. Is there anything he can do to help reverse it?
Well, sickle cell disease is a genetic disease.
Genetic,
Yeah, but lifestyle is huge. You know, avoiding things that push you over the brink, and we're talking about blood fluidity again. You know, keeping well hydrated, keeping healthy. So those are the hallmarks in sickle cell or sickle cell. You know, trait. People can be at risk for clotting issues there.
Okay.
Someone says, can you send me the free videos about blood pressure and diabetes? I already bought the book, but I'd like the videos.
Okay.
They just have to sign up.
go to-
Tell them again.
It's on the web, so it's not a physical copy that you get. You go to the website, timelesshealinginsights.org, and just sign up and give them your name and email address, and click
very simple.
Sign up, submit it, and you will get a daily video.
Yes.
In your email, in your inbox.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. You signed up. I'm going to sign up too, honey. I don't want
Very
to be
simple.
behind. Okay, what's the next one?
Oh, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy What do you recommend to improve my condition? I live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, so so cardiomyopathy has to do with problems with the heart muscle. And so hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is when there's an overgrowth of muscle in certain areas of the heart that can interfere with the blood flow. And you know, these are conditions that you definitely want to be working with a cardiologist with. You know, so young people can have it, and there are the good news about some even anatomical heart conditions is people can grow out of certain ones. Some of the problems we've seen with valvular heart disease in young people, some of these things as they get older on a healthy lifestyle can actually improve. You know, one of the classic ones is mitral valve prolapse. But you know, definitely you want to be working with a specialist.
And also keep your stress down.
Always good, always
That's
good.
good. You know, we live out in the country, and sometimes on Sundays we just open the back door, listen to the birds, listen to the raccoons, listen to the squirrels fight over, black oil seeds. It's peaceful.
I love that.
You know,
stress-free.
Stress-free, and it's too cold now, but you know, with that walk, my wife always liked to get me to walk. She's determined. She wants me for a long time.
But you know what?
I do.
Talk about that.
We always say to our patients, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
Oh,
So
okay.
even if it's cold, just bundle up. Now, I'm not talking about living in Antarctica. There you might have to bundle up.
That's different.
You know, that's a different story. But here, just bundle up. I mean, the other day it was what, 4 below zero, wind chill of 15 below. We went out. I was still, every morning. I mean, there's nothing that keeps us from going out. Yeah, you just bundle up. I layer, you know, put layers on, and I take a wool scarf, and wrap it around my neck and over my mouth and nose so that I'm not breathing that ice cold air, because that bothers me if I breathe that. But if you're breathing through the wool scarf, it's not as, you know, it makes it quite nice. And just
so
go out
that
and
was more
exercise.
psychological then.
I'm going to do
You just have to bundle, you know, just layer up and still get out there. That's what we do.
I'm glad you said that. On my break at work, I'm going to do that. I wouldn't do it because of the weather.
Yeah, but honey, don't walk too far.
But,
I know you always tell me that.
But if it's icy, make sure you put some of those stabilizers or something on your feet.
Yes.
Some kind of they have those things, I don't know what else to call them. Maybe that's a brand name. But anyway, they're things that you put on your feet over your shoe that have little pokey things sticking out from spike things.
Little spikes.
So you don't slip on the ice.
Okay.
Okay, another one. Should the teas like hibiscus, etc., be sweetened? If unsweetened, can the tea be counted as part of the daily water intake?
We're good with counting it as part of the water intake. And the main sweetener that a lot of people in the natural health field are recommending today is stevia, which is a natural sweetener that generally seems to be, you know, a reasonable choice.
Okay.
Yes, it's of the sweeteners, I would definitely recommend that over others. However, and that one is, if you haven't used it, be careful because it is super sweet. It's not comparable teaspoon for teaspoon with sugar by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you're talking about a pinch.
Ooh.
Or probably
concentrated.
It's super concentrated. But the other thing is I would encourage people to work on changing your tastes to not crave the sweet as much. And you basically do that by changing what you eat. We actually eat what we like. I mean, we actually like what we eat rather than eating what we like.
Say that one more time.
We actually like what we eat rather than eating what we like. In other words, if you habitually eat something, you learn to like it.
Yes.
And so, and I tell my patients, I said, since that's true, why don't I choose to just eat the healthiest diet and learn to like that, and then I reap all the benefits.
There you go.
Of that.
You know what I noticed? This is kind of an observation to how nature looks at our diet and see how ridiculous it is. I noticed that bugs and insects, they don't go for barbecue potato chips. You never find them in a barbecue potato chip bag. They go after all the natural stuff.
That's true.
What's wrong with them?
Interesting, isn't it?
God programmed them that way. Here's another one.
How can you reverse the beginning stages of congenital heart failure disease?
Oh, congestive heart failure.
CHF,
Yeah, so CHF. So there's a lot of things that play into heart function.
Yeah.
And probably the best way to say it is if you can improve your circulatory health. That's one of the best things you can do for your heart and your blood vessels. Of course, early CHF, there's different types of heart failure. We talk about systolic and diastolic. It's a very complicated area, but here's what I will say. I'm thinking of one patient that I had years ago where she called me and she said, I want to get off my pills for congestive heart failure. And I said, well, I'm willing to work with you. And she was able to treat the underlying risk factors, be able to get off her medications. And she wrote me for years, I want to say several decades,
Really?
telling me how well she was doing.
Wow.
So again, if you've had multiple heart attacks and you have congestive heart failure for that reason, because you've got we call it ischemic cardiomyopathy, the heart muscle isn't working. Well, yeah, you can have irreversible causes of heart failure too. So you want to address things as early as possible.
And you also want to work with your physician on those things. Any kind of a medical diagnosis, you want to be working with them.
Yes.
And there, like he said, there are multiple causes for congestive heart failure. I've had patients who were diagnosed with it because of the huge amounts of alcohol they were consuming. And when they got off the alcohol, it reversed itself.
Very good.
So over time.
Right.
So that's, there's multiple causes as well. And get on the healthiest lifestyle possible, work with your physician, and see.
Very good.
Okay.
I am on strong medications in order to control epilepsy. Is there any information in your books that specifically addresses this?
We don't talk about epilepsy specifically in our books. There is an area that many people have heard about, the more ketogenic diets. So these are diets that use less carbohydrate. We generally don't recommend them for most people, but some people, if they have epilepsy, if they get on more of a ketogenic diet, they can decrease their dependence on some of the anti-seizure medications. But again, like Sonja said, it's something you want to be working carefully with your neurologist.
Yes.
And there are ways to do a plant-based ketogenic diet as well.
Oh, there is.
So I would, work with a dietitian who is favorable to a plant-based diet, if to work with that.
Good.
Because most ketogenic diets are just high on the animal protein, animal foods, and low on the plant foods, which has a whole host of other problems that it brings with it.
Wow. Well, here's another one. My husband has high blood pressure and has been put on Rampril.
R-A-M-I-P-R-I-L.
Ramipril.
As well as Lipitor. He also has atrial fib, so is on Apaxaban.
Paxaban, API.
He was taking CoQ10 until we read on the label that it's contraindicated for people who are on these medications.
What's your opinion?
What is your opinion? That was a tough one for me.
I know.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these things become very complicated. The more medications you're on, the more risk there is for drug-nutrient interactions. So in Chapter 12 in our blood pressure book, when we talk about supplements, that is one of the things we spend some significant time on, talking about how if you even take a healthy supplement, one of the categories classically that we've had problems with are with blood thinners. The historic one that we're used to was warfarin or Coumadin.
Okay.
But that was notorious for you take even a healthy supplement, and that could mess up your warfarin levels. So the challenge is whenever you're on prescription medications, you do have to work with the prescribing doctor or with the pharmacist, because the data is always being updated as we get more people on some of these newer medications to know what may or may not be an interaction. But having said that, what we have seen is with the approaches that we're talking about, whether it's the free videos or whether it's the book, many people can decrease their dependence, especially on the blood pressure medications. Atrial fibrillation, you definitely want to be on some type of blood thinner.
Yes.
If you're experimenting on yourself, we've seen far too many people have ended up with strokes, when they don't take that seriously.
Yes, my mother was on, she had AFib and she was on warfarin, and she couldn't eat vegetables, green vegetables.
Well, that's what we found is that's really not, if a doctor is willing to work with you, I have a lot of patients historically who've been on warfarin. As long as they're consistent. I have a patient right now, he's a young man with a rare clotting disorder. He's on warfarin, and he actually eats lots of greens, but he's just consistent with doing it. So the dosage of his warfarin is based on his eating a good diet.
Yes.
You know, in the old days, we put people in the hospital, give them a lousy diet, and then say, oh, we got all your coagulation all stable here. Don't eat anything good when you go home. And it's like, what? What were we thinking about?
I always thought about that. How could vegetables all of a sudden be bad for you?
I remember, yeah.
Well, the thing is, they affect the amount of
Interaction.
yes, so the more vegetables, it takes a higher dose of warfarin to make the, to do what it needs to do to keep your blood from clotting.
That's
but if, like you said, if you're eating a consistent amount of the same things, just get on a good diet and get your dose set with that, and then you're okay.
Yeah, and we're not instructing people tonight.
No. You work with your physicians
work
on
with
this.
someone who's monitoring your INR.
Exactly.
That's that special measurement for your blood thinning.
Okay.
We're not telling anybody what to do
exactly.
with their
No,
medications,
no.
obviously. We want
Right.
that to be
Making
clear.
that clear.
Right, and we
yes.
want to put that disclaimer out again. We're not saying to you, hey, Dr. Sonja DeRose said, we're not taking this medication any longer. No, this is not telling you to make any drastic lifestyle changes. But what we are saying is pay close attention to what is affecting you and take advice, but there are a lot of factors in these both books that could assist you in natural ways to begin to help and reverse some of the things that you're facing, if I'm understanding that correctly.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Can pink salt, taking pink salt or Celtic, is it Celtic?
Celtic salt.
Celtic salt, help with the absorption of water and help with insulin?
That's a common, a lot of people think that the pink salt, Himalayan salt, or all these specialty salts are healthful.
Yeah.
Well, salt is salt is salt as far as your body is concerned, okay?
Sodium.
It's still sodium chloride.
Yes.
And yes, maybe there's some other minerals added in there that are good, so that's fine. But there's a couple things you want to be careful of. It's still going to have the same effect on your blood pressure, which many people are sensitive to salt for raising their blood pressure. Many people. So that's one. In fact, what is it? They say if they did a study on that, whereas if American people just cut down from because most people eat, they say an average of a teaspoon and a half of salt a day. If they cut that down to a teaspoon a day, it would save like 60,000 lives a year.
Wow.
Just from cutting down the salt intake because of the lowering the blood pressure.
Okay.
So just because it's Himalayan salt or some other specialty salt doesn't make it, any difference
Efficacious.
how your body reacts to it.
And it's not going to help your hydration status.
No.
You may want to drink more water because you need more water to dilute the additional
salt.
sodium you're taking.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a good point.
Salt will make your body hold on to more water, so you'll get more swelling, more lower extremity edema,
Inflammation.
and this kind of thing. But that's not what you want. You want to be able to, and you need water to flush that salt out of your system. So even, and of course,
True.
That's why we don't drink ocean water.
exactly.
Good move.
And the other thing is, if people are only using those specialty salts and no iodized salt, you can actually get into trouble with your thyroid because iodized salt is the only reliable source most people have of iodine in their diet, and that is vital for proper thyroid function.
Issues. Yes.
Iodized salt.
Interesting. Okay, great program tonight. I was wondering about lean meats and fish, more specifically the omega-3s found in fish. What plant-based item can I use to replace those?
We actually talk about this quite a bit in our 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control book. And let me make a couple of points because I know you got a lot of questions there. We'll try to keep stuff short. So simply put, omega-3 fats are only made in nature by plants. Okay, so fish do concentrate them, but you can get all the omega-3 fat you need from plant sources. And on top of it, fish are some of the most toxin-laden foods. Now, in Jesus' day, they weren't using DDT, hadn't used DDT, and there wasn't DDE, and there wasn't all this pollution.
No.
So if you want to be mercury, raises blood pressure.
Ooh.
Okay, so if you want to be on the best program, you want to, even with the lean meats, you want to avoid them as much as possible. Emphasize those whole plant foods like Sonja and I have been talking about.
Okay.
That's a very good point. Speaking of gut health, what's a good way to detox and how often should it be done? I've heard it's important to do periodic parasite detoxification. Is this true?
In the Methuselah Factor program, we actually have fasting that's recommended. We specify how you do that. So as you go through that 30-day program, that's also in the free online program at timelesshealinginsights.org. Okay, so when folks sign up for that, one of the things they'll hear from us is about the fasting program that we recommend. One of the best cleanses that we recommend is using more soluble fiber. Two of the really good fibers are psyllium seed husk and guar gum. Psyllium seed husk and guar gum. That can be used as part of a fasting regimen with a lot of water that can help to be a natural cleanse.
Oh, I love that.
Wow, I'm getting advice here too.
I love it.
They're not the only ones getting good advice.
No.
I always like when the guys come here, I learn.
So many questions. I have high blood pressure. I'm 82 years old. I'm on one med. I drink 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. Eat your suggested diet. My problem is my pressure goes up every evening. Sometimes 170
to 180
systolic, and dystolic 80 to 90. And it goes up in the evening. What would you say to help with that? In the evening, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Different people have different patterns of blood pressure control. And one of the things we recommend, if people's pressures are going up later in the day, sometimes it has to do with how they're handling stress. Sometimes it has to do with their activity level. So that's one thing to be aware of. And sometimes it actually has to do with how they're taking their medication. So a lot of people will take their medication early in the day, and even though it's, quote, a 24-hour medication, they may actually do better if they split that medication in half, talk with their provider, but sometimes that will level out their blood pressure better. But the pointers we have in the free program, in the books, those things also help to have a natural blood pressure lowering effect, and we can find many people that even some of those fluctuations daily are improved.
Wow.
And they may want to consider, I don't know what their diet all involves, but make sure that you're not sensitive to salt, and if you are, or just cut down the salt in your diet and see if that makes a difference too, because many people are consuming a lot more salt than they realize. And you really have to read labels for that too, because, for instance, cornflakes have more than twice the amount of salt that corn chips have. You wouldn't think that by tasting them.
Cornflakes?
Really?
More than twice
Most
the
brands.
amount. Most brands of cornflakes have more than twice the amount of salt compared to corn chips, which taste very salty.
Right.
The reason being, cornflakes have some sugar in it. That helps to hide the flavor, and also it's inside more. It's like all mixed in, whereas on the corn chips, the salt is on the outside, so you taste it more.
Yeah, interesting.
So read labels, because you have to really do that in order to know how much salt you're taking in.
Okay.
Oh my. What are your thoughts on using beet powder to lower blood pressure? I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so I mean, when we did research on blood sugar, so the free online programs for blood pressure and blood sugar, there's literally dozens of natural compounds in nature that the Creator has put there that help stabilize blood sugar and blood pressure. And what we've done is we've tried to emphasize eating these whole plant foods. It's not to say that there aren't some supplements like we talked about. We didn't find, when we looked at large groups of natural remedy practitioners, we didn't find lots of them using beet powder. I've heard claims about it, but here's my point. Stick with the comprehensive lifestyle approach. Make that the foundation. And then we've highlighted some of the better supplements in the blood pressure book, and they're also in the videos too.
Wow.
Okay, please speak on insulin resistance. What do you know about that?
Well, you could talk a long time on that, so we'll try to make it short. But it's a very common problem in America today. Insulin resistance is made worse by the typical American diet.
Sad.
What we eat, the saturated fats are a huge contributor, which of course are found in all animal products. And gaining too much weight, increases that as well. There's a little quiz you can go through, which I don't know that we have time to pull it up and go through right now probably, but that can tell you if you have the metabolic syndrome or not, which is what causes insulin resistance. But let me just talk about saturated fat a minute, because that is such a huge player. And you've heard the saying, you are what you eat.
Yes.
That's right.
That's literally true, because whatever we eat gets digested, broken down into molecular form, and deposited in the cell, every cell in your body. And the cell linings are made up of fat linings. So if you take saturated fat, which is solid at room temperature, right? You take butter or beef fat or whatever, it sits on the table, it's solid.
Stays solid.
Well, in your body, it stays more solid, right? Your body isn't that much above room temperature. So it makes your cell linings, walls, more stiff, less flexible.
Okay.
And to make it short, that actually makes the insulin harder to attach to it and get the sugar into the cells. Pancreas has to make more insulin to go over, and it increases your insulin resistance.
Yes.
How about saturated fats? Go ahead, Doctor.
Yeah, so to the point of the question, like Sonja was saying, insulin resistance is when insulin isn't doing its job like it should. So it's not only not lowering blood sugar, but when you're more insulin resistant, your blood pressure tends to go up. A number of other things happen. It's a leading cause of infertility in women. In young ladies, if they're having trouble getting pregnant, it can be the result of insulin resistance contributing to something called polycystic ovary syndrome. Yeah, so there's all these connections, like Sonja said, insulin resistance, reversible with lifestyle. We cover it a lot in the books and in the video series, so perfect place to get more information.
Man.
Here's a strange one. Describe what negative things can happen when one drinks 4 or 5 cups of fat-free buttermilk daily.
Every day, buttermilk.
Every day, buttermilk.
Well, let's put it this way. We would rather focus on, we have good advice that we should focus on something better.
Yes.
And let's put it this way. Even if you took what doctors would say is the best dairy product, non-fat milk, okay?
Yeah.
Even non-fat milk has a protein in it, casein, which raises cholesterol. It's pro-inflammatory, okay?
Damages your kidneys.
So basically, if you're looking for the healthiest program, you don't want more of any type of dairy. Dairy, we say, is the ideal food. Dairy is the ideal food for infants of that species. So by all means, if you've got a farm, make sure your calves get the mother's milk.
Okay. Even though it's fat-free buttermilk, that buttermilk, it's like 2 compounds. How can it be fat-free buttermilk?
Well, what I'm just saying is there's all kinds of products out there right now, and the goal shouldn't be to try to find how you can eat more dairy. Less is better on that front.
That's right.
Because like you mentioned, the animal protein is pro-inflammatory. Animal protein in and of itself damages your kidneys. It's just not a healthy source of protein for our bodies. And the more protein you consume, the more calcium you lose in your urine, so it increases the risk of osteoporosis as well.
Wow.
No.
There's some serious...
Yikes.
Okay, let's see if we can squeeze another one in.
Here's one real quick. I'm on 5 different blood pressure medications. Wow, I didn't know you could have 5 different types. Wow. Yeah. And have been diagnosed with having mitral, heart, and valves disease. Is there any natural way to help with this condition?
We've been talking about it all
night.
Yeah, so again, they may not be able to get off all those medications, and some of those medications may be necessary for the valvular heart disease. They may have more than one purpose. But we always say, when you go on these programs, they're powerful. Work with your doctor. You can often be tapered off, decreased on some of those medications.
And that is a really important point, is that work with your doctor on any of these things. If you are taking medications and you make these big lifestyle changes, you need to be working with them, because you may end up with blood pressure that's too low if you're still taking the medications, because it's lowering it more, and now your diet and lifestyle is lowering it, or your blood sugar levels, if you're taking all these blood sugar lowering medications for diabetes. So that's really important to work with your physician.
Wow.
Okay, well.
We have covered quite a bit tonight. If you haven't digested it, in about 2 more hours or so, you'll get a chance to see the repeat of this program.
These
But
are the books, right?
30 days to natural blood pressure control. And what's this one called, honey?
Turn around, Methuselah Factor.
If you don't know who he is, look in the Bible. There's some amazing things we can
Great
learn.
books.
And thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
David and
Dr.
Sonja's,
Sonia.
Doctors David and Sonja's DeRose. Glad to have you here every time you come. You
Yeah.
bring a wealth of information, and
And
I
he's
always
also
learn
our
something.
pastors, and the pastors.
It's always a
wife.
privilege to be with
Yes.
you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed it. Thank you.
I always learn something, and more times than not, you confirm everything my wife is trying to teach me. So I think as I get older, I better listen to her more.
That's good. Good.
You know, she wants me
Good
to be healthy.
application.
She would ask me, "What about the water? Did you get any fruits today? Are you exercising? Did you go outside?" Well, friends, we are just thankful that you
Yeah.
have tuned in. And
We
once
are.
again, the website is timelesshealinginsights.org. Timeless Healing Insights. Sign up to benefit from all the things. Have you learned a lot tonight, honey?
Absolutely, and I've enjoyed this.
I surely have. And you know,
Enjoyed this program.
the Lord says, I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Contribute to going on vacation rather than sending your doctor on vacation. And so until we see you the next time, friends, may the Lord richly bless you in a healthy way.
Yes.
May God be with you until we see you again.